The movie I chose to review was Todd Browning's Freaks, originally released in 1932. The film stars Harry Earls as Hans, Olga Baklanova as Cleopatra, and Henry Victor as Hercules, along with some other very, very unique characters. The film's plot consists of a small circus man named Hans who falls in love with the trapeze performer Cleopatra. Unfortunately, Cleopatra only gives Hans the time of day simply because she learns about a large fortune that Hans will soon be inheriting and she wants to take his money. She even ends up having an affair behind his back with Hercules, the circus strongman. Hercules is much bigger and stronger than Hans is, and many of the other performers make fun of Hans for the way that he feels about Cleopatra, but he does not let that change the way that he does feel. At some point, Frida comes along, Hans' lady friend, and tries to warn Hans of Cleopatra's motives behind the relationship, but Hans feels so strongly that he does not even listen to Frida. Interestingly enough, Frida and Hans were brother and sister in real life and immigrated to the United States in the early 1920s from Germany. Things finally reach a boiling point, as it all comes down to Hans and Cleopatra's wedding, when Hans finally puts the pieces of the puzzle together. Cleopatra and Hercules come up with a plan to attempt to poison and kill Hans. They do end up poisoning him, but they also end up both getting very, very drunk and kissing and laughing right in Hans' face at the wedding dinner. Cleopatra also ends up yelling and throwing wine on all the circus freaks after they attempt to accept her as one of their own, as she had married Hans earlier that day. In the middle of being incredibly upset and embarrassed about what had taken place at the wedding dinner, Hans finally collapses as the poison has hit him. Fortunately, it was not enough to kill him, and Hans ends up at the circus's doctor. Cleopatra once again tries to poison and kill Hans, but this time, Hans and the other circus freaks saw it coming and caught her red-handed in the act. In the end of the film, Cleopatra and Hercules get what they had coming and deserved, and Hans ends up back in the arms of his true companion, Frida. This film nearly ended its director, Todd Browning's, career. Since it used actual deformed actors, people used words like distasteful and terrifying to describe both the film and its circus characters. In my opinion, the cast is actually the most interesting part of the film. I understand how there were many thoughts and closed minds about people who were different at the time that the film was made, but personally, I feel as if the characters were what made the film so great and eye-catching. If the same story had been told in a different setting with quote-unquote normal characters, I think it still would have been a great story, but it wouldn't have made nearly as good of a film as it did. The film's budget was supposedly around $350,000, but it also supposedly only grossed around $175,000. It was even banned in some countries years following its release. Now, in my opinion, the film was just a little bit before its time. Since then, there have been many films released with the same sort of unique circus characters lens that was used in Freaks. Perhaps it was inspiring to other filmmakers. When I first watched the movie, even though there was no dancing or music, characters like the bearded lady or the man with no arms or legs reminded me of The Greatest Showman and Hugh Jackman. Those are the kinds of movies that come to mind when I think about the circus setting and all those types of stories and characters that surround it. A lot of the time, there's disagreement among cast members, unlikely love, and usually a happy ending. I think it's safe to say that this film has almost all of those.